I'm Niamh Cassidy, a former social care worker who, after having my own children, found a calling as a childbirth educator and lactation consultant. Back when I started this journey, I faced the same challenges many of you might be experiencing right now, struggling to get enough clients to make my business viable long term. I knew in my heart that I had the skills and knowledge to make a difference, but the thought of marketing and selling left me feeling a bit uneasy. I didn't want to compromise my authenticity and values just to attract clients. I invested in trainings and mentorships, and I tried various strategies that I learned, but it often felt like I couldn't implement a lot of it because what I was being taught didn't match my values as a birth and postpartum worker. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hand. I embarked on a mission to learn, to experiment, and to find ethical and authentic ways to share my expertise, support my clients, and build a sustainable practice. Today, I'm proud to say that I run a thriving private practice, and I'm here to share my insights with all of you to help you to do the same. Join me on this journey as I help you bridge the gap between your passion for supporting new parents and the success you deserve. Together, we'll discover the power of ethical, authentic, and effective approaches, not only to make a living, but also to make a positive impact in the world of birth and postnatal care. Let's get started on this empowering journey together. Hi, and welcome back to the Pregnancy and Postnatal Entrepreneurs Collective podcast, the podcast for birth and postpartum workers who've realised that they are also business owners. I'm Niamh Cassidy, your host, and today we're going to talk about that very scary topic of pricing. So let's start with a fundamental principle. At a minimum, your costs need to be covered and you should be making a profit. Otherwise, you're essentially volunteering your valuable skills or you have an expensive hobby. Your passion and dedication deserve to be rewarded, both emotionally and financially. So let's look a little bit more into various pricing strategies so you can use it as a possible toolkit to tailor your own approach. The first strategy most people start with is, what is everyone else charging? And you either decide to go somewhere in the middle or at the lower end because you're new, or you feel that by undercutting others, you'll get more business. But that isn't always the best strategy, or at least what others are charging shouldn't be the only consideration you have. So let's look at some of the other things that we can consider. A lot of people will set an hourly rate, and there are different ways that people might calculate this. You might calculate your monthly or yearly overhead costs and divide that by the number of contact hours you plan to work. So contact hours is when you're with a client who is paying you rather than the hours that you will actually work. Because as we all know, there's a lot more to this work than just the time we spend with clients. So once we've figured out our monthly or yearly overhead costs and divided that by the number of hours, then we add on what we feel is needed to make it worthwhile. And voila, we've got an hourly rate. Another slightly rougher way to set an hourly rate is to work out how much you need to earn a year to live. And then how many hours you can or want to work, and then divide the number by the hours you can work. The major drawback of these type of pricings is that the client really isn't taken into consideration, so it can be usually beneficial to combine it with some market research as well. For example, I might decide I need 50k a year to live on, but I can only see clients 10 hours a week and only when school is in session. So that could possibly work out that I can only work 380 hours a year, which would give me an hourly rate of about $131, which, depending on the service provided and the local market, this might not be feasible. However, hourly rates when done with thought can be a good strategy for different services, for example, for postpartum doulas, and some lactation consultants also work this way, but it may not work as well in other areas, especially if serving groups. Also, be cautious not to undervalue the wealth of experience you bring to each hour. So another way to look at pricing is value-based pricing. And this is focused less on the number of hours worked with the client, and instead this approach ties your pricing directly to the unique value you bring to each client. It reflects the impact your services has on their lives, both practically and emotionally. Birth doulas are more likely to consider value-based pricing as the number of hours worked can be variable, but this way of pricing is worth considering for all birth and postpartum workers. It's also probably one of the reasons why we see huge differences in the cost of childbirth education courses that might have the same number of hours in them, but the perceived value is different. For example, typically hypnobirthing instructors seem to charge more than traditional childbirth education instructors. While there will also be exceptions to this, it does seem to be one of those things I have noticed. In conjunction with hourly pricing or value-based pricing, some people might also look at package pricing. And this can be a way of serving people with different needs and different incomes or insurance cover. You may have low cost to high cost services that people can choose from. For example, I have a pre-recorded breastfeeding in hospital class that costs just €20. Then I have various types of one-to-one consultations and then support packages of up to €400. This allows people to choose the level of service they need or what they can afford. Birth and postpartum doulas can also consider packages as a way of serving clients with different levels of finances and different needs. And really, any birth or postpartum worker can look at package pricing. Another pricing strategy you may have heard of is premium pricing, or I've recently heard it described as psychological pricing, which feels a bit off to me. But it's where you position yourself as a premium service provider, offering an exclusive top-tier experience. This strategy emphasizes the exceptional value you provide, allowing you to cater to clients at a much deeper level, but also possibly to serve less clients and still have a reasonable income. If you think of the world of childcare, for example, there can be babysitters, people who mind children in their own home, nannies who come to people's homes, and then also premium nannies who charge far more than the average going rate. In a way, this can also be viewed as value-based pricing, or it can be that someone just decides that that's what they charge and work on positioning themselves as a premium provider. There's nothing wrong with doing this, but it's even more important to really get to know your ideal clients so that you can understand them and appeal to them at those higher price points. So being able to appeal to the people that can actually afford your premium price services. So now we've looked at some pricing strategies you might consider. Let's think a little bit more on why it's crucial to avoid the pitfall of basing your prices solely on what others are charging. Your unique skills and value you provide deserve really thoughtful consideration, and that you don't start to undercharge for the value that you are bringing. So how do we avoid undercharging? It can be really tempting, especially for new birth workers, to undercharge or to offer loss leader pricing. This is where we undercut what the general going rate is. Or as mentioned before, people might feel that they can't charge the same of others who are doing it longer. While this might attract in initial clients, and it can be a way of getting those first few testimonials, it can also create a perception of lower value in the industry, and it may lead to you burning out and having financial strain, which means that you don't continue the work. I'm reminded of a recent conversation we had in our Facebook group. I explained how there was a time I offered a 5.5-hour in your own home childbirth education class for just €150. Madness. And guess what? I had hardly any bookings. Can you relate to that? Does that sound familiar? Having ridiculously good value prices, but still not being able to book people in. Whereas now I charge double that, and the class is slightly shorter, and I get more bookings. But when I started, I found it hard because I came through the breastfeeding volunteer sector, and when I worked full time, I worked for a homeless charity. I also come from a working class family, and most of the time we had enough, but never more. I had some serious money blocks about charging. I care about social justice, and I care about people being able to access services. But here's the thing. Now I charge more. Not only do I get to serve more clients, but I feel less stressed about taking time out of my paid work to volunteer. If I was still undercharging, I'm not sure I'd still be volunteering. By charging my worth, I get to help more people for payment and for free. It's important to avoid getting burnt out, and one of the ways to do that is not to undercharge. Taking care of yourself is not just a personal consideration, however, it's also a crucial aspect of providing quality services. And lastly, remember your pricing contributes to the overall perception of the industry. Charging what your services are worth helps elevate the work that we all do. Women's work has been traditionally underpaid since the Industrial Revolution, And I feel it's important that we start to change the tide and ensure that birth and postpartum workers are recognised for our expertise and dedication. A balanced pricing strategy not only sustains your business, but also ensures that you continue to offer the amazing support you do to your clients. It's a win-win for everyone. But as final thoughts, remember that pricing is not a one-size-fits-all. It's about finding a strategy that aligns with your expertise, values, and the unique needs of your clients and your family. So join me next time for more insights on growing your birth and postpartum business. But until then, I hope your business thrives and your services continue to make joyful impact on the families you serve. Talk to you soon. Don't forget to download your totally free copy of the Birth Workers Business Playbook, now available for a limited time only. So check out the show notes to get your link and get your copy.